Kurdistan. Wow. Naveen, Bangalore, engineer. All right. Good. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We know the numbers are going to keep on growing. It's great to see everyone here today. And my name is Michael Williams. We're going to talk today about how to confidently share your thoughts, your ideas when all eyes are on you. When all eyes are on you. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we do, I have just a couple of questions for you because we're in a global situation that we can't ignore, right? And so I just want to presence that and ask you a couple of questions. So give me a second. I'm just going to put up a couple of polls here. All right. So the first one is, this is actually one that I wanted to put on second, but it doesn't matter. So will communication skills be more important or less important when this is over? So here's the thing that you want to remember. This will be over. We will get through this. And the only question is, will you be on the leading edge or on the tail end, right? Getting dragged behind. I mean, just imagine on the tail end, you're just trying to recover and you're just getting dragged behind and, totally out of control. Or are you going to be on that leading edge as we come out of this? So we will come out of this and either we'll be alive or dead, right? Right. I mean, right. So, and if you're alive, how do you want to come out of this? That's the question. How do you want to come out of this? So one of the questions that I want to ask you is, will communication skills be more or less important? Now, it's always been like this, but this is a situation that's unprecedented. We've never experienced this before. And this is going to affect every sector, every market, every person, every business, right? So one of the questions is, will your communication skills be more important or less important as we come out of this? All right. So let's just see what people are saying. All right. If so, we got 23 people. If you can see this, go ahead and answer it. I really would like to get as many answers as I can. We have more than half the people answering now, saying that it's okay. Good. All right. So virtually all of us agree so far from the answers that we've gotten. Virtually all of us agree. It says 75% of the audience. Let me see if I can share this. Yeah, so hopefully you guys can see 75% of the audience says it's going to be more important. So we know minimally your communication skills are not going to be less important, right? There are some jobs where you can hide out, and you don't have to communicate, but even getting jobs, a friend of mine, Tom, and I, we kind of tease each other about the fact that Walmart is hiring, Amazon is hiring in its warehouse, and if things get really bad, we all might be working in the Amazon warehouse. Right? We might not want to, but we might have to be working there. So, but you're still going to have to interview. You're still going, and if you want to rise up, you're going to have good communication skills. Okay. So that's that one. 75% of the audience has answered. Now, here's another one. Will the market be more competitive or less competitive? I mean, who knows? But just based on your thoughts, your experiences, do you think the market will be more competitive or less competitive as we come out of this? Let's just get your answers to that. Okay, so got a couple of people saying less competitive, and I don't know the answer. It could be less competitive in some areas. So we've got, yeah, see what we got. Okay, So some people are saying more competitive. Some people are saying less competitive. 82% are saying more. 18% are saying less. Okay. Very good. Just waiting for a couple more answers. Very good. Very good. All right. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started now. We're talking about today how to confidently share your thoughts and ideas when all eyes are on you. So you want to be able to, in any situation, and we're talking about anything from a meeting where you're sitting in a meeting and there's people around and you have something that you want to say because believe it or not, your voice, your ideas and your thoughts are very, very important, and they're very, very, very valuable. So when you want to share something and you don't, people lose out, people miss out. Okay. So you're sitting in the office or you're sitting in a meeting virtually, right? Or in person, and you want to say something, but because of fear, you don't. Okay. So we want you to get to the place where you can confidently share your thoughts and ideas, no matter who is looking at you in a meeting, in an interview, in a presentation, right? Whatever the situation is, you want to be able to confidently share your thoughts and ideas. And so by the end of the webinar, I'm going to give you 2 techniques, 2 things that you can do that will help you do this. Okay. So one of the things that I used to struggle with growing up, again, all the way from like the 2nd grade, I can remember going to speech therapy in the 2nd grade. And I would be sitting in class and I'd know the answer. I'd know the answer. And I wouldn't raise my hand because I could feel that I wouldn't be able to say what I wanted to say. I wouldn't be able to share my thoughts and ideas. I wouldn't be able to share the answer. And so it made me feel kind of weird, kind of different. Like I was like, why am I different? Why can't I share my thought? Why can't I speak sometimes? And I grew up that way all the way through school. Eventually, I figured out how to speak up. So there were times when I would, but there were lots of times when I wouldn't speak up. And so there are some of you out there who are watching this who you may not stutter at all, but you may be just shy, or you may be very, very quiet, and you may feel like you don't have anything to offer, or what are people going to say if you say the wrong thing? Or what if you don't articulate your thoughts as clearly as you would like? So these are some of the reasons why people don't confidently share their thoughts and ideas, because they're afraid of what other people might think or say. And I want you to remember that. So they're afraid of what other people might think or say. They are afraid that they may not say the right thing, or they may not use the right words, the right vocabulary. If you are multilingual and you're speaking in another language that's not your mother tongue, then you might be even more fearful of, is this going to sound right? Is this going to, am I using the right words? I know how it feels because when I'm speaking in Spanish, that happens to me all the time. So if you're multilingual and you're speaking in an English speaking situation, that can be a very real and valid fear. So therefore, you might be kind of fearful of raising your hand or of speaking up and sharing your thoughts. So there's a lot of different reasons why you may not want to, or why you may be afraid to confidently share your thoughts and ideas when everyone's looking at you. Okay. And those are just a few. So then the question becomes, what can we do about it? So we just talked a little bit about why this happens. It mainly happens because of fear, right? Someone's looking at us. People are looking at us, and we become fearful and anxious. Oh my God, they're looking at me. I have to perform now. right? What we're going to do in this webinar is I'm going to share with you a couple of things that you can use to shift that, to turn that around so that you actually want people to look at you, right? You're not fearful and anxious about them looking at you. You're excited and you want them to look at you. That's where we're going to get you by the end of this webinar. So, talked about a couple of reasons why that happens. Now, let's move to those very, very specific techniques that you can begin to use, that you can begin to apply in your situations now. We know that most everyone, not everyone, but most everyone is working virtually now. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to need your communication skills. One of the interesting things is that companies like Zoom specifically, companies like Demio, the one that we're using now, I know because they wrote me and told me that they've become almost exponentially busier, especially Zoom, because they have a free account. So way more people now are using video communications to do their work, classes and courses using video communications to teach their classes. People are using it to do their meetings and so forth. Sometimes it's video, sometimes it's just audio, but these are the tools that they're using. So your communication skills are still going to be necessary. So let's talk about a couple of techniques, right? A couple of techniques that you can use to shift that fear so that you can confidently say what you want to say. And once again, I totally understand what it feels like to not be able to do that, but I also understand what it takes to get yourself to the place where no matter what the situation, a meeting, interview, presentation, conversation, where you're excited about and you actually want people to pay attention to you. You want people to look at you. And it doesn't matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert. I'm actually more of an introvert. So I don't need to be the center of attention. I don't need to be out there all the time in front of people. But you can change your speaking identity. We're going to talk about change your speaking identity so that you enjoy when you need to, when you want to, you can enjoy that attention. You want that attention. So let's just look at a couple of reasons. A couple of techniques. And this first one has to do with something that we've been talking about for weeks and weeks. And the reason that we've been talking about it for weeks and weeks is because it's so important. And I'm going to share my screen with you. So give me just a moment to get this set up. And we're going to take you right into our new course, The Ultimate Confident Speaker's Success System. This is the new standard for public speaking, for courses, for strategies, and for techniques to help you transform your speech and transform your life. So I'm taking you directly inside the course. Some of you have already seen this. It's a prerequisite, and that's why it's still there. And we're going to talk about self-talk. Now, why is self-talk so important when it comes to your being able to confidently share your thoughts when everyone's looking at you? Why is self-talk important? And it's something that you can do in the moment. So right now, I'm not so much going to talk about all the things that you need to do leading up to the moment, right? Although that's very important and we will mention it, but I'm going to talk about some things that you need to do in the moment. Like right now, I'm talking to you. What do I need to be doing in the moment? So one of the things is that you need to develop the habit of talking to yourself. My good friend Tom Harrison and I was talking last evening. And when we talk, we often talk for a couple of hours minimally. And we're talking about you're being able to intervene. That means you're in the moment, the pressure's on, people are looking at you. You need to have the ability to intervene. That is to do something in the moment. Okay. And one of the things that you must So this is a habit you absolutely must have. You must be able to talk to yourself in the moment, right? And so we're going to talk about a couple of key things that you must be able to say to yourself when you're in the interview, when you're in the meeting, when you're in the conversation. You must be able to say these things to yourself, because if not, what will happen? So I'm just going to ask you, I'm not going to be able to see it, but type into the chat box, if you don't talk to yourself in the moment, if you're not able, and all of you are capable, if you're not able to intervene, to talk to yourself in the moment, what's likely to happen? What's likely to happen? So I'll let you kind of sit with that for a moment. But let's talk about some of the things that you actually need to be able to say to yourself. And this comes right out of the book from my coaching clients and my self-study students. These are things that they've said. But also, these are things that you can go out and find in material that's already out there. I mean, there are some excellent material, some books that are out there that's done all kinds of scientific studies, and they say the same thing. Okay, so what are some things that you can say to yourself? All right, so one is, believe it or not, and we've talked about this before, is to relax, relax or be calm, right? Another one, this is very important, to slow down. You can literally tell yourself to slow down. And this next one comes directly from my wife, Myra, who's actually listening. She told me this some years ago, and I started to incorporate it into our program. So when people are looking at you, in fact, I asked her this yesterday just to kind of reconfirm what she does. So some years ago, she used to be an associate assistant and also a dean. So she would have to do presentations and so forth. She's never actually been the person who would get out and stand up and do presentations, but then she had to start doing this as a leader. So I said, well, what did you used to do? And what do you do now? Because now she does stuff online. So what do you do now when people are looking at you? Maybe you're feeling kind of anxious and so forth. What do you tell yourself? What do you do? So one of the things that she said that she does is she tells herself, and I'm not going to use the exact language, which is, I don't give an F, right? I don't give a damn. I'll just use nicer words. I don't give a damn who's out there. I'm going to just say what I want to say the way I want to say. I'm going to say what I need to say. It doesn't matter who's out there. It doesn't matter who's looking at me. I don't give an F, or whatever words you want to use. It just doesn't matter. I don't care if the president of the company, the president of the United States is out there. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to take my time and say what I want to say the way that I want to say it, right? And so this, you may think initially that this is something that's negative, but actually it's quite empowering when you tell yourself, I don't give a damn. I don't care who's out there. I don't care who you are. And it's not being disrespectful. It's not not caring about the audience. In fact, we're going to talk about that. But really, it's empowering you. It's empowering you to take control. So when you say, this, what you're doing is you're taking back control. So rather than your being overly self-conscious and worrying too much about who's out there and who's looking at you and what they may think, and when you start to worry about, am I going to make a mistake? When you start to do that, your focus shifts from, and we're going to talk about this right now, your focus shifts from the purpose of your communication. It shifts from that to something that's distracting, something that's actually going to take away from your ability to confidently, to smoothly, clearly communicate your thoughts and ideas, right? When you're distracted, you're not able to say what you want to say. You're not able to say what you need to say. And what distracts you is worrying about what other people may think, worrying about making a mistake. When you say that, I don't care. I just don't care who's out there. I am going to say what I want to say the way that I want to say. And it doesn't matter if it comes out perfectly or not. It doesn't matter if I mess up a little bit or not. I'm just going to get out there and I'm going to say it. When you say that, you feel more empowered. So, one technique, there are many techniques that you're going to find in this program, right? One technique is to talk to yourself in the moment. And these are things that my clients have told me that they tell themselves to help them relax, to calm down, to stay focused, right? Have you ever been in a speaking situation where all of a sudden people are looking at you and your mind just starts to get cloudy? And now you just kind of forget about what you want to say. You just start fumbling and mumbling and just, right, you're totally lost. Well, self-talk is one of the habits. In fact, there are 5 habits that I talk about in this program, 5 critical habits that I talk about that you must have. One of them is self-talk. You must be able to talk to yourself in the moment. So right now, while I'm talking to you on almost a subconscious level, there may be certain things that I'm reminding myself to do, right? There may be certain things that I'm telling myself just in the back of my mind. So self-talk is one. Here's a few things that you can say to yourself. One is relax. Another one is slow down. So you and I know we talked about this last week, that when you're anxious, and I would say globally, we all have reason to be a little anxious. We all have reason to be a little fearful and worried. But the fact of the matter is that we don't have to let that control our lives. We don't have to let that drag us down. And so there's that underlying, wow, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? That can affect your speech, right? So telling yourself to relax, telling yourself to slow down, telling yourself that you don't care or that you don't give a damn in the moment are some things that can help you when all eyes are on you. Now, let's talk about the purpose of your communication. So, why do you think it's important to talk about the purpose of your communication? So, when you open your mouth in an interview, in a meeting, in a conversation, be it social or professional, you have a reason for opening your mouth. You have a reason for speaking. Let's talk about what that reason is. Well, the purpose of your communication, many times, is to articulate, to transfer, to share a message, to share a thought, to share an idea, to share a message. And if it's in an interview or a meeting, it's usually in response to a question or a need. Like, let's talk about an interview. You're in an interview, they ask you a question, they want and need that information. So when you open your mouth to speak, you are giving them the information that they want or need. Does this make sense? If you are in a meeting and you have something that you want to share, you are sharing this thought because you believe that you have some information, you have a thought, or you have an idea, or you have a message that you believe that the audience, whoever's there, needs to hear. Like, they need this information, or you believe that they would like to hear this information. Okay, so the purpose of your communication is because you believe that the person on the other end wants and or needs to hear what you have to say. Just like right now, I'm speaking to you. I believe that you want and or need to hear what I'm saying, right? And because I believe that, then I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that what I'm saying is clear, right? That it's impactful, that you're able to listen to it, that you want to listen to it, right? And that you're able to take action on it, that you're able to do something with it. So I don't just want to share this information, but I want to share it in a way that you can do something with it. Okay, so that's important, that when you're sharing information, you have a message. Let's just call it message. You have a message. You want to share it in a way where it's clear. You can hear it. You want to listen to it. You can listen to it. You can hear it. You can listen to it. So it's clear. It's clear structurally, right? I'm laying it out where you can follow it, and that you can possibly do something with this information. So that's a part of the purpose Now, what happens is if you are fearful, right, and you divert your attention to worrying about what that other person is thinking, worrying about, am I going to say this right? You're not able to focus on the purpose of your communication in the first place. So the purpose is, I want you to hear this information. I want you to listen to it. I want it to impact you, right? I want you to pay attention. I want you to be able to do something about, well, I can't deliver my message in that way if I'm now focused on, or my attention is over here worrying about what you might think of me. Does this make sense? So every time your attention shifts over, oh my God, they're all looking at me and I hope I don't, then I can't focus on the very purpose for which I'm speaking in the first place, right? Because then I start babbling, I start getting stuck, I start stuttering, right? All these kinds of things may happen when my attention shifts away from the purpose for which I'm communicating in the first place. And one of the main things that you must be able to do is develop the habit of talking to yourself in the moment. In this course, in this training course, we teach you how to develop a habit, because it's a habit, right? You can walk out today, as soon as this is over, and you have a meeting or you have a conversation or something, you can begin to talk to yourself right now. Say, okay, just relax. Just calm down. You know what? It doesn't matter who's here. I'm still going to just express my opinion. Okay? You can start to develop that habit right now. It's a habit. So it's a habit, and it's a skill. So it's something that you can develop, and it's something that you must develop. Because if you don't, you'll default. You'll always just go back to responding and reacting the way you usually do. So some people wonder, well, why is it that every time I'm an interviewer, every time this happens, I automatically respond this way? Well, part of it has to do with your identity. Another part has to do with the habits that you've developed or that you haven't developed. This is one habit that you must develop. All right. What's the next technique that I'm going to share with you? What's the next technique? Well, the next one has to do with something that we call modeling. And this is where your identity comes into place. Now, here's what I want to share about identity. When we say identity, and I'd like for you to go ahead, if you can, and type into the chat box what you think I mean when I talk about identity and speaking identity. We have talked about this probably in a webinar a few weeks ago. This is the core. This is the key, right? And I'm going to share with you just a specific technique that you can begin to use when everyone's looking at you. There's a book that I want you to check out. It's called Alter Ego. Let me just write that down. I'm just going to put it over here. Alter Ego. All right. So some of you have heard me talk about, especially those of you that have been in my coaching, of course, you've heard me talk about modeling. And some of you have gotten it and some of you haven't, right? But check out Alter Ego. This is a guy, and I've just read this book maybe a month ago. So I've been doing this for decades now. And this guy has done a lot of research. He has worked with some very, very high profile athletes and people who are very, very successful. And one of the things that he found and that he finds is that they're able to create an alter ego, right, that they use when they need to perform well. Modeling, right? Modeling. So one of the techniques that you can use when people are looking at you is modeling. And what modeling does is it helps you change your identity. So question is, what do I mean when I say identity? Well, here's what it means. Your identity, if you go and you look up the etymology of that word, has to do with the same and the same again and again, right? Comes from French, Latin, Greek. What it means is that when you see yourself being the same, doing the same thing again and again, you think, well, I'm the kind of person who does this, right? I am the kind of person who does the same thing again and again. So when it comes to speech, if you see yourself, and I've actually heard people say this, well, when I'm in a meeting or when I get ready to say this word, I usually get stuck. People will say, I usually block or I stuck, or I generally, when I'm in a meeting, I tend to overthink. I tend to overanalyze what I'm going to say. Same and the same again and again. So that's your identity. Or I tend to speak too fast, or I tend to get anxious, right? So that's your identity. That's who you believe yourself to be. Remember, the same again and again, who you believe yourself to be right now. The good news is that you can change your identity. You can change your speaking identity, okay? So you don't have to be the same person again and again forever. You can change who you see yourself to be. So what's one way that you can do this? There's various ways, but one very, very powerful way to do this is to model someone else. It's to model someone else. When you model someone else, and modeling is very natural. In fact, a question that I often ask is, how did you learn to speak your first language? Well, you didn't read a book because you couldn't read, right? You probably didn't watch a video, maybe. You probably didn't go to school because you were too young. You learned by observing. We call this observational learning. You learn by observing the people around you, your parents, your grandparents, your siblings, and you observed them and you modeled them, you mimicked them. So you have the natural ability to learn things by modeling. What happens is as we get older, we overcomplicate it, we overanalyze it, we make it very, very difficult. Sometimes we lose our imagination and our creativity in terms of modeling someone else. But you have the innate ability, you can do it. And people still do it. In fact, why do people say, hey, watch who you hang out with? Watch what you listen to, watch what you watch what you read, watch what you talk about, watch what you do. Watch and take care of who you hang out with. Why? Because believe it or not, you're going to model them, right? Even subconsciously, even though you might not know it, you're going to model the people that you hang out with. So modeling is something that you and I do even when we don't want to. Modeling is the second technique. When all eyes are on you, one of the things that you can do and that we talk about in this program, right, is how you can transform your speaking identity by borrowing the speaking identity of your model. Okay. So let me just give you a personal example. Many, many years ago, over 20 years ago, and there's something else that I also want to throw in here. But I went through a period of time where I was thinking about, man, what do I want to actually do with my life? And this is very important during these times right now. Your calling, your purpose, and this has a direct impact on your speech and on your ability to transform your speech. And I'll tell you why as quickly as I possibly can. So I was thinking, what do I want to do with my life? And so I figured, well, man, I want to do something where I can help people become the best that they can be, where I can help them discover their purpose. I can help them set goals, achieve their goals, and so forth and so on, right? That's just something that I always had a desire to do. So growing up, I had a desire to be a teacher, to be a preacher, right? And I said, whoa, wait a minute. That's going to require me to speak well. That's going to require communication skills, but I stutter. So I grew up in the church. So I began to pray, seek the Bible. I began to ask God to heal me, right? And none of that seemed to happen until I stumbled on a way to actually borrow the speaking identity of someone else. In fact, there were two other people, two models that I had. So it became very, very clear that if I wanted to fulfill my calling, as my friend Tom Harrison says, to walk my why, walk your why, that is, do what you're here to do, right? To serve others. If I really wanted to serve others at the highest level, I would need to, now listen to this, I would need to up level my communication skills. I can serve people without speaking at all. But if I wanted to serve them at the highest level, like I'm doing now, I would have to up level my communication skills. I'd have to figure out a way to learn to speak well. Have to. If I ever wanted to earn what I was worth, I'd have to up level my communication skills. And for many of you, it's the same thing. How did I do it? Well, I really stumbled upon this. I didn't read a book that says, oh, model someone else, right? I just said, you know what? I like the way Brian Tracy speaks. I like the way Charles Stanley speaks. Man, if I could just mimic them, if I could speak like them, then I could speak well. So I watched their videos. I listened to their audios, and I began to mimic them, to speak, to literally become them when I was on stage, when I was teaching, when I was speaking. And what that did is temporarily, it changed my identity. I was no longer Michael Williams. I was Brian Tracy. I was no longer Michael Williams. I was Charles Stanley. So when I would preach, I would stand the same way. I'd hold my Bible the same way. I would use some of the same words. I'd move my hands the same way. I literally felt like Charles Stanley. And I had people come to me and say, oh, wow, you preach just like Charles Stanley. So I knew I was modeling. And I felt never stuttered at all. So one of the techniques that you can use when all eyes are on you is to model, is to borrow the speaking identity of someone else when you're speaking, right? To say, how would my model say this? How does my model speak? How does my model move his or her hands? What about their facial expressions? What about their posture? What about the tone of their voice? What about their speaking rhythm? How do they do this? So you borrow their speaking identity. That's the second technique. In this program, we teach you how to do that. What is a speaking identity? We talk about that. What is modeling? How do you make a mental imprint, a physical imprint? How do you use modeling in your daily conversation? So if you're watching this and you're a coaching client or you're a self-study student or you're none of those, modeling is the secret to transferring or transforming your speaking identity. If you're just using techniques, you've only gotten a part of this whole process. Modeling is what takes you to that next level. Some of you are watching this or you will be watching this and you've gotten that and you know that, yeah, sometimes I still mess up or sometimes I still mess up, but I don't see myself the same as I did years ago, right? I just don't see myself that way. So therefore, when I mess up, it's okay, right? I don't give a damn. It's okay. You've got to be able to transform your identity. And here's something that will help you do that, and that is your purpose in life, your calling. So just really, really quickly, one of the things that can help you through these times, and one of the things that helps me, and then we're going to bring Sakshi on in just a moment. And I was just wondering, why am I not as anxious and as fearful and as worried? Well, you know why? Because I'm focused on serving you. Like every day, and I wake up all day long, the main thing that I think about is how can I serve you better? How can I create something? How can I do something that will help you become the person that you're supposed to be with regards to your speech and other areas of your life? So because my whole being is focused on service, I don't have time to think and worry. What I'm doing is I'm getting audios and videos and books to help equip myself to better do what? To better serve you. That's all I'm thinking about. I don't have time to be fearful. I don't have time. So I have a sense of peace that you too can experience when you think about service. So Barbara is here today. And one of the things I was very impressed with Barbara is she's at the tail end of her medical student career. And she said yesterday, she said, you know what? I was talking with a friend and we were looking for ways to actually get out and help people who are older or they're not able to get out and shop. And so we finally found an organization that we could tap into where we could go get groceries, we could cook for them if we needed to. Aha. She understands a part of her purpose in life. She is interested in serving others in the health field, serving others in other ways. So because of that, she's highly motivated to work on her speech. Now, her thing is that she's multilingual, and so she has a thick accent. So when she gets a little anxious, sometimes that accent comes in and she speaks faster, and so people are not able to understand her as well. She is working very hard every week. She's getting better and better, clearer and clearer. Why? What's driving her? What's motivating her? Her purpose, her calling. Serving others is motivating her to up-level her speech. And she's doing it right in the middle of a pandemic. So what I want you to do is think about how you can use this time where you are locked in, right? You have the time now, more than likely, most of you have the time now, and some of you have at least minimal resources to invest in yourself and to take your speech to the next level so that when this thing is over, you come out on that leading edge as opposed to on the tail end getting dragged behind. You can take this time to think about, man, what am I called to do with my life? How can I serve others? How do I need and why do I need to up-level my speech, my communication skills, so that I can better serve others? So you have something important to say in a meeting, in an interview, in a conversation, in a presentation, as a teacher, as a speaker, whatever. There are people out there who are waiting to hear what you have to say. And some of you have something to say that could literally save someone's life. So you have something important to say. And this important thing can help you move from fear to desire. That is, when all eyes are on you, rather than you being afraid, oh my God, everyone's looking at me, you actually desire, you're like, oh my God, everyone's looking at me, everyone's paying attention, right? I actually want everyone to be looking at me because I have something important to say because I want to serve others using my communication skills. Does this make sense, right? So you want to up-level your communication skills because you have something important to say because that's a part of your calling and your purpose in life. And rather than being afraid that everyone's looking at you, you actually want everyone to look at you because you have something that they need to hear. You want to focus on your message and how it's going to help others rather than thinking about your speech and worrying about what other people might say, worrying about the fact that you might get stuck or something like that. No. You got something important to say. You need to get it out there, and therefore you need to develop your speech in a way so that people can hear it, people want to hear it. You can confidently say what you want to say, especially under pressure, right? You can confidently, smoothly, and clearly say what you want to say so that people can listen. So I want to kind of wrap up my portion of this. Myra, if you can do something for me, if you can, go ahead and try to bring Sakshi on, because we want Sakshi to kind of speak to how she has gone through this experience and some things that she's been doing quite recently. Now, she's up at Harvard now, right? She used to live in India. She started with me as a student. She then worked with me as a coach for a while. She's back taking now an advanced course with me, and she's in Harvard, and she's coming back on board as a coach. So we want to go ahead and bring her on and have her share. Very good.
Can you see me, Michael?
Yes, I can see you and hear you. Thank you, Sakshi. So go ahead and share with us your experience and how you believe that this whole process can help people fulfill their calling in life.
Yeah, thank you so much, first of all, for having me here, and thank you everyone for joining. We have people from across the world. So it's great to see everyone. Thank you. I can't see anyone, but it's great to see everyone's names. I was working as a client. I think a few years ago, and coaching has really helped me in terms of really being consistent with really practicing my affirmations and practicing modeling, and it has really helped me become better at my speech. I mean, I was someone who would always be scared of talking in front of people and how do I say my name, and it really used to horrify me every time I had to say my name and say introduce myself in front of people. And so when I joined the Pro 90D system, it really gave me, first of all, it gave me hope that okay, I can change the way I talk, and I can be more and more confident. And I'm so glad that I took that step. And after that, yeah, there were kind of ups and downs, but the coaching really helped me sustain. And that's why I came back, because I really felt like this is something that I want to do. And I think modeling is something like Michael shared how it is like that secret that really changes everything. So every time I have to speak in front of people, I remind myself of Michael. And I have one more model who does not talk in English, but I still have those those mental images in my mind, and I think of that, and I go in with the mindset of really offering something to the people who are going to listen to me. And so it immediately shifts my focus from what are these people going to think about me to what do I have to offer, or how
Right.
can what I say impact the lives of people.
Mm.
And so that really shifts everything. And so I focus on how does Michael use his hands while talking, or how he breathes before he talks, and how smoothly he talks. So I kind of remind myself of that, and that brings me out of the fear into the desire to contribute, to really impact the lives of people.
Mhm.
So that is something that really changes the way I look at my speech.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's how it has really helped me. And there's so much more in the system that can be taken and learned every day. I mean, this is like you said, I mean, this is the time to do it. I mean, we are at home, we have a lot of time to make a lot of changes in our habits and listen to audio, watch video, and practice every day. And this is the perfect time to do it, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you so
So
much.
now, thank you, Sakshi. So she said a few key things. One is, and again, now you're up in Boston right now, so she's made her way from India. Sakshi she already has a master's in clinical psychology. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And now you're working on a second master's in what?
So this is called something like prevention, science, and practice.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically how to prevent mental health issues in children.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So she's at Harvard, and so she's smart. Uh, she again has worked with me as a coach. She's had coaching clients through our company. She goes out and she speaks to audiences now. Maybe not right now, but at least a month ago she was out speaking, and she's speaking to an audience right now. So she is a perfect example, just one example. There's plenty of other examples like right now on this call of people who've taken their speech to the next level, either through the self-study or the coaching. So what we want to do is encourage you. So Myra, go ahead and we're going to put up two things for you. One, we're going to put up the the coaching one. Okay, the course one. That's fine. All right. And then we're going to put up the one for coaching as well. All right. So there is the coaching. So if you want to speak with us about taking your speech to the next level, if you're in a position to do that, And some of you are working and things are pretty steady. Now is the time to do this. And we're not doing, some people, oh, we're taking advantage. No, we're doing the same thing. I'm doing the same thing. And I'm saying the same thing I've been doing for years, right? It's just that now is the time where you have the time, more than likely, and now's the time where you want to shift your focus away from what's going on in the world and worrying and feeling anxious. You want to shift that to, man, how can I serve people more? Like we're getting ready to like ratchet up. We're getting ready to step up our service. Like a lot of the free things that we do, we're going to step that up now because we know people need that. So what we want you to know is that now's the time for you to shift your focus to how can you serve others more. And one of the ways is to take your speech to the next level. And just like Barbara did, and there's another gentleman who just signed up last week. Coaching is one of the fastest ways to do that. And Sakshi will be available. Some of you have watched her, you've seen her videos over the years, and you're going to be like, you know what? I'd really like to work with Sakshi. She's going to be available to work with you as a coach. And obviously I'll be supervising. And then some of you are going to want to work with me. For right now, we just want you to go ahead and book a private conversation with me. And so when you do that, you'll be able to sit down with me and we'll assess your speech. And then we'll look at how to get you from where you are now to where you want to go. Okay, so that's the coaching. So Myra, go ahead and put up the course one. All right, so this is where you can work from home. It's a brand new course, right? 90% of the videos are new. We do have some of the videos that are there that we've brought forward because they're good, they're prerequisites, but it's not really about the course. It's about you're creating the habits that you need to create to take your speech to the next level, right? So you want to be able to confidently say what you want to say, especially under pressure, right? And we're all kind of under pressure now. If you want to be able to do that, then you're going to need to know what the habits are that will get you there. What are the things that you need to start doing every day? For example, self-talk, listening to audio. What audio? Well, they're all here. Watching videos. What are the things that you talk about? What are the things that you read? Modeling. How do you model, right? All those things are there in that course. So take advantage of this time to do that, because if not, if you're not taking advantage of this time to come out on the leading edge, what will happen is you'll get consumed with fear, consumed with anxiousness, and you may not wisely invest this time, and you may come out of this at the tail end, or minimally come out of it where you are, but everything else is going to be different. Okay, so it doesn't have to be with us, but we want you to invest your time and we want you to focus on how you can serve others. So hopefully this webinar has been helpful to you. One of the things that we want you to understand is that you have something important to say. You have something that people need to hear. And what you want to be able to do is to go from being afraid that all eyes are on you to desiring all eyes to be on you so that you can share your message. Okay, if nothing else, I want you to think about that. And there are two very, very specific things that you can do to help you. One is develop the habit of being able to talk to yourself in the moment. Two, being able to change your speaking identity by modeling someone else. Check out that book, Alter Ego. He goes into a lot of detail about that, and you'll go, Michael's been talking about this for years and years. Wow. Sometimes you just need someone else to say it, or you need to hear how someone else says it, right? And this guy does an excellent job of that. So do that for me. I'm just going to take some questions. I know Sakshi has to leave because she has a class that she has to go to. What questions do you have? Yeah. So, boom, boom, boom. I'm just going to go through these. So Myra shared a link to the books. Great. All right, so here we have Myra, your personal story inspires me. I'm a Catholic and I've shied away from teaching religious instruction to students in my parish. I will reconsider and not run away. Yes, yes, yes. So people need to hear, like you have the ability to change lives. And don't ever think, those of you who are watching this, don't ever think that you don't have something important to share because there's somebody else out there doing it. I could have said, oh, there's somebody else out there already doing this. And there are. But do you know how many people that my story and that this system has helped more than what I'll ever know, right? Probably hundreds of thousands of people over the last decade or so, only because 20 years ago, I said, you know what? I really want to help people. I have something to say. I have a message. Okay, I need to work on my speech. I need to figure out how to work on my speech. And it took me a while, but I figured it out. And now I'm sharing that with you. And this system is the how, right? Sure, there's other systems, but you can try the system, but this system works. I have people who are doctors, who are lawyers, who are engineers, very, very smart people, students. And the reason that they like this system is because it works. It works, right? It's based on science and it just works. So if you have shied away from something, if you've been avoiding something, some of you have turned down opportunities, right? You've lost opportunities. You've avoided opportunities, you turned them down, or you've lost opportunities because of your speech. It's not your fault. But now you have an opportunity to take that to another level so that you can take advantage of those opportunities and create opportunity. Now, what would it be like to have an extra couple of thousand or a few thousand, $10,000 in your paycheck, in your bank, because you just up-leveled your speech? I was talking to a young lady who's like, I turned down a really good job, really, really good job. I was talking to her last week because of my speech. I turned it down. How many of you have done that? How many of you have interviewed for a job, wasn't able to get the job because of your speech? Again, it's not your fault, but you can do something about it. It doesn't matter if it's fear, public speaking, something you've been struggling with, if it's stuttering, it doesn't matter. You can do something about it. And the secret, like Sakshi said, the secret lies in the modeling. It's not just the techniques, not just the breathing. It's not just the slowing down, right? Those are all helpful things, or extending or inflecting, whatever. Those are all great. The modeling is what transforms your identity. So you've got to tune into that. So let's see. All right, DJ, is memorizing your videos for modeling more effective than listening to you and repeating what you say in the exact same way? So DJ, you can do both. I probably used audios more than videos because when I was doing this, it was 20 years ago plus. So yeah, there were videos out, but it wasn't the same as things are now. Okay. So it wasn't that easy to watch a video. I had to take a big cassette out and put it in the VCR and watch a video that way. It wasn't, in fact, I didn't even get a computer until sometime in the 90s or whatever. So it definitely wasn't the way it is now. It wasn't as easy to watch videos. But when you watch a video, you can see things visually that obviously you can't see when you're listening to audio. I'm more of an auditory learner, so I have lots of audio books. Now, I'll also buy the printed copy because I want to go back and quickly reference. So I have audio and I have also a lot of things written. But sometimes it's very, very helpful to watch the videos. I don't like watching a lot of videos. I'd rather listen to audio. Okay. So you can do both. You definitely need to do both. But the one that I would do more would be the audio. I do more audio, but you absolutely need to spend some time studying that video, right? You might be an auditory learner, But the visual, you're going to get the visual and the auditory when you're watching the video. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Yes, you can do both. Yes, you can listen to the audio most of the time, but you need to also do some video. All right. So someone says they couldn't see or hear me. Hopefully you all can see and hear me. It might have been something happening. Sakshi, thank you so much for sharing. Sakshi had to jump off. All right, Michael, how can we do the free flow exercise and model at the same time? Okay, great question. Just going to answer that. And I'm going to take some time. Those of you that need to leave, thank you for being here. You will get a replay. So let's talk about the free flow speaking exercise briefly. I'm not going to go into that deep because that's not what this webinar is about. But you can do the free flow speaking exercise, which is in this course, and helps you create better, smoother airflow, more consistent airflow. And there's different versions of the free flow speaking exercise, right? There's the 4-phase version, but then there's a second part that you'll see in the course. There's a second part where I talk about talking about something that you did in the past, talking about something that you're going to do in the future, talking about something that you're excited about, and talking about something that you're repeating, that you're reflecting on. So you watch the video, you read something, and now you want to explain that to someone else. All of these things require you to access different parts of your brain. Something I did yesterday, something I'm going to do in the future, something I'm excited about, and something that I'm kind of repeating. You're accessing different parts of your brain. You're speaking in a different way. When you kind of free flow speak that, you can model, right? You can use the modeling style to explain what you did yesterday, what you're going to do, right? You use the modeling style, which means how would your model say this? How would your model use his or her hands? How would they inflect their voice? What would their body language be? You can do that when you are doing that part of the exercise. Okay, hopefully that helps. How to deal with the anxiety and fear of reading aloud and how to use modeling in this. All right, so that was the one thing I used to hate doing, is reading aloud. Quickly, when you read aloud, here's the word that I want you to remember. Read dramatically. Don't just read the words, right? How to deal with the anxiety of reading aloud, right? No, you want to read it like you're in a play, right? How to deal with the anxiety and fear of reading aloud and how to use modeling in this situations. Read it dramatically. The other thing that you do is you skip ahead a word or two. So you read it, you skip ahead a word or two, and then you speak the words that you've already seen, so you're not reading word for word. So what I do is I look ahead, and then I'm looking ahead as I'm speaking the other words dramatically. So I'm actually kind of almost memorizing a few words as I look ahead and say, okay, now here's what's coming next, while I'm already speaking the words that I've read. So this allows me to read more fluently and more dramatically. So those are just a couple of quick tips so read dramatically. All right, Michael, very inspiring, Sakshi too. Back on the course again, having not invested time to now, life too busy, etc. As you know, got hung up on the model as a UK speaker, and so different accent. We'll be trying to emulate Tony Blair. Remember him? Yes. Do you think accents for your model matters? For some people, it does matter. Remember Sakshi from India. First of all, she's a female. Second of all, she has a different accent. I have a different accent. But she initially used me as a model, and then she got a second model who spoke a different language. It's okay to have two models. If you need to have a model with your accent or a model with your language, then you can do that. You don't have to use me as a model. One of my first clients was an Indian female. She said, Michael, just tell people to use you as a model because it's too confusing for us to try to go out and find our own model. Because first I was like, go out and find your own model. And she said, no, just tell us to use you. So that's when I started to say, hey, just model me for now. It's easier. But some of you, that's not going to work for you. You might need to have someone with your accent. Now, here's the thing about accent. Dr. Ismail said that when he modeled me, he would change his accent just a little. Other people couldn't really tell, but in his mind, he's changing his accent just a little. And what that did is caused him to create a new speaking identity. Like slight shift in his accent was what he needed to feel like he was someone else. So that can be the secret, that shifting of your accent just a little bit. It doesn't have to be, but it can be. So to answer your question, yes, you can get someone who has your own accent. Yes, you can get someone different than me. If you're a female, you can get a female, but you don't have to, right? Yes, you can get someone with your same accent, but you don't have to. Actually, someone with a different accent might be more helpful. So it's totally up to you. But yes, you can. Okay, great question. All right, Barbara, yes, thank you so much, Mr. Williams. Been working on my THs. Yes, we've been practicing that. A lot of hope in this program will help me. I've accomplished 4 difficult years of med school by God's grace now, and don't want your speech to stop you from helping others, especially in the specialty that I'm applying for. So Barbara is the young lady that I told you about, and she came to me just recently, right in the middle of this pandemic, and she said, you know what, I've invested a lot of time, a lot of money, and I don't want that to go to waste. I want to be able to serve, and I need to up-level my speech to do that. And boom, I'm going to work with you to do that. And so that's what she's doing, and she's actually doing an incredible job here. All right, is there any way to create the habit of self-talk and modeling? When I'm able to remind myself of these very smooth, however, I tend to lose focus on this some of the days. Habit. How do we create habits? Well, usually it's through repetition, although some habits can be created almost instantly. Most habits are created through repetition, right? So a habit can be created, believe it or not, if there's a significant emotional event. Boom, your brain says, oh my God, this is how I need to feel. This is what I need to do. And it seeks to repeat that same thing every time you're in a similar situation. It only had to happen once. Most habits, however, are created by you doing the same thing over and over. So what do you need to do to create the habit? Increase the repetitions. So that is, if you want to talk to yourself while you're speaking and you want to model, then create more opportunities for yourself to speak with the sole purpose of self-talk and modeling. What did I do? Well, 20-some years ago, I literally went to universities and said, hey, I have this presentation. It's about an hour long that I'd like to do for your students. Can I do it? Most universities said yes. So they brought me in. And now before I went there, I practiced this for hours and hours and hours so that I had it down. No notes, speak for an hour, totally fluent. Went out to a few universities, did it. One of the universities, actually it was a community college, hired me then. They were so impressed, they hired me to come in and help them create a program. And then later I became a facilitator. So now I'm out there with the sole purpose of me getting out there was to work on my speech, right? To work on my speech. So to answer your question, you create opportunities to work on your speech, to talk to yourself and to model. You literally create opportunities. And the more of those opportunities you create with that purpose, the more it will become a habit. You can't think that it'll just come natural because it's not natural. So what do you have to do? You got to create the opportunities with the purpose of talking to yourself and modeling. So what some of my clients have done is when they would go to work, they would have conversations. They'd be like, I'm going to model right now. I'm going to remind myself to model right now. It's a perfect time to model. Oh, I'm going to go walk like Jason. He would go walk down the hall. And so I'm going to go walk down the hall and speak to people. And when I do it, I'm going to remind myself to model. So that was his purpose. So you have to purposely and purposefully do it and say, I'm going to use this as practice time to model. Because if you just allow whatever situations, circumstances to come about, the conversations that you normally have, and then try to remember to model, then it might not become a habit. If you say, I'm going to actually go out and create opportunities where I'm going to talk to myself, where I'm going to model, then you're more likely to do it. Great question. I mean, it's a critical question. Very, very important. Hope that answers it. Michael, your techniques are great. I believe the underlying cause is different for each person. Anger, fear, trauma, yes. How would you suggest these areas be handled? Sometimes I believe we focus on the fruit, the speech, and not the root, emotions. Super question. So there are going to be those of you out there who may actually need to seek counseling, right, from a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a counselor to deal with some of the underlying issues, right, that has triggered poor speech or stuttering or whatever it is, right? Whatever it is. Again, it doesn't have to be stuttering. This could be anything that prevents you from speaking the way that you want. There could be some underlying issues. There always are some underlying issues. And some of you, it's so deeply rooted that you're going to need some coaching or some counseling in that area. Our approach is replacement, not treatment, right? And so what that means is that, and I know this may sound harsh, but we don't really care what the underlying issues are. What we look at is, this is where you want to be. What are the beliefs that you have? What are the thoughts that you tend to think, the attitudes, the behaviors? And how can we replace those beliefs, those thoughts, those attitudes, those feelings with the ones that will get you to where you need to go? How do we replace the current ones with new ones, right? And when you replace the old ones with the new ones, well, what happens is the old ones start to fade away. They lose their power, they lose their strength, and the new ones become stronger. Now, what we find is that there are some people where the old ones are so strong, people simply won't let go of them. And those people have to do some additional work. Now, here's something that I also found that I was sharing with you guys and sharing with my friend Tom. The thing that helped me the most was focusing on how I could serve others, right? So once I shifted the focus away from myself and started thinking about how can I equip myself to be of greater service to others, everything changed. Everything changed. Stop reflecting back on the past, anger, emotions, fear. Stop thinking about all of that, because I'm just focused on how I can equip myself to serve others. Now, is this going to work for everyone? No. Does everyone need to know what their purpose is? Yes. Does everyone need to, in some way, be of service? Yes. Will this help most people? Probably so. But will some people need additional support? Yes, some people will. But the things that I'm sharing with you now are very well established, very well researched. Shifting your mind to service, shifting your mind to replacing those old beliefs and habits and thoughts with new ones. If you do that, the results will come, right? So focusing on, man, what do I need to be thinking? What do I need to be doing? What do I need to be reading? What do I need to be watching? What do I need to be talking about? And then focusing on that. And then why do I need to be doing this? Well, because I want to be a better servant as an engineer, as a doctor, as a whatever, right? When you put those things together, everything changes. Everything changes. So I hope that answers your question. Great question. Thank you. All right. It's amazing, Michael. Let's see. What you just said about modeling helps. When I'm excited, I tend to mumble. When I'm recalling information, sometimes I tend to stumble sometimes. What you said about accessing different parts of the brain helps. Exactly. So send me an email if you can't find that in the course. It's definitely going to be a part of the new course, but it's in the old course as well about modeling. Okay. Thanks a lot for your explanation and your answer to my question. Thanks. Appreciate it. Okay, great. We are wrapping it up. Thank you guys for being here. If you're watching this video, then please take this time to focus on how you can serve others and how you can up-level your communication skills to enable you to do that when we come out of this. I've not been worried or anxious at all. Maybe a little bit every now and then when I'm watching the news, but I spend a lot of time, this is important, listening to audio and thinking about how I can serve you. And by doing that, it's kept me encouraged, kept me inspired. I go out and I exercise. And so that's what I'm doing. And it's probably something that you can do as well. Think about how you can serve others, how you can better equip yourself to serve others. And if we can be of service and help through our courses and coaching to help you do that, then for sure, go ahead and contact us. So thank you guys so much for being here. We will see you the next time.